Well, Senator, will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024? Bottom line.
At the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation, low unemployment.
Wait, Senator, yes or no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That is my statement.
Yep, that is his statement. Tim Scott is serious. He wants to be VP. There's never been a stronger indication of it. All of that stuff about respect for democracy or whatever, we're done with that. We're moving on because I think either I could be VP or I've already been told that I'm going to be VP. And that means kissing the ring, bending the knee, making the devil's bargain, whatever metaphor you want. Tim Scott is now on board with the death of democracy if that's what's required. You know, if Trump wins legitimately, which he could, then fine. Democracy prevailed and he becomes the VP. But if not, Tim Scott is fine with the big lie, like just lying to your supporters, sending them to the Capitol, the fake lawsuits, all that. He is now on board, okay? So as a respectable politician, Tim Scott is done. That's it, we're moving on from it, okay? And he was asked multiple times to clarify. If he wanted to add even a bit of nuance, he could. Instead, we get this.
And just yes or no, will you accept the election results of 2024?
I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president. Kristen, you could ask him multiple times.
Senator, just a yes or no answer.
So the American people will make the decision.
But I don't hear you committing
for President Trump. That's clear.
I don't hear you committing to the election results.
Here's the challenge.
Will you commit to accepting the election results?
This is why so many Americans believe that NBC is an extension of the Democrat Party.
I'm asking you as a potential VP nominee, will you accept to commit to the election results in this election cycle, no matter who wins? Just simply yes or no.
I expect President Trump to win the next election. Listen, I'm not going to answer your hypothetical question when in fact, I believe the American people are speaking today on the results of the election. And if it continues for the next 6 months, we find ourselves in a great position where we get back to another century of American prosperity. Yes. I'm looking forward to that.
All of that is a reminder that not only is he utterly corrupt and has no morals whatsoever, he's also not the most intelligent person in the world. That wasn't even a good way to get through that situation. Another 100 years of prosperity. We didn't have 4 years of prosperity under Donald Trump. Do you remember, Tim Scott, what happened in the last year of his presidency? Were you awake for that?
But yeah, 100 years is like a little bit of a reference to like a forever. Like we'll have a next 100 years because Trump and or his family will be in power for 100 years.
It feels like a reference to a Reich is what it feels like. Another 1,000 years of good whatever. She kept asking the question, and I respect that. I like follow-up questions, but at the same time, he answered the question. He did answer the question. He answered the question the first time, and he answered it the same way every other time. He won't. That's it. When you're asked an easy question about whether you are going to respect our form of government and you refuse to answer it, you have answered it. That is how the rhetorical math of that works. She needs to make clear to her audience that he is not going to respect the results of the election and that whatever comes, like don't ask the same question over and over. Say, if Donald Trump sends a crowd to storm the Capitol, will you be marching alongside them? If Donald Trump has a bunch of lawmakers lined up against a wall and gunned down, will you be okay with that? Here's some fun hypotheticals, okay? Because maybe we won't get to those hypotheticals, but honestly, I didn't think we were gonna get to a storming of the Capitol. We're entering exciting times in America. Francesca, what do you think?
It's so chilling. I mean, it's wild to me that Tim Scott would say this. And I understand Tim Scott's like, maybe I'll be his running mate. Like, I've got to keep it in line. And like all the sycophants are like, what's the line? We haven't been given the line yet. I don't know, your guy is facing a bunch of criminal indictments. He's in court every single day falling asleep. But it doesn't matter. The question remains, is this is why that they call you guys part of the DNC. Like, no, dude. She's literally just asking you, would you accept the election results? No matter who wins. Yeah. And he's saying no. The answer he is giving is no. And again, these folks can't even be considered, like, we're not even in a democracy. Like, I think the follow-up question is, do you believe in democracy? Yes or no? That's the follow-up.
Yeah, and the correct answer is, if it results in us going to the White House, then I believe it. If not, then no. What if, hypothetically, Trump wins, Tim Scott becomes VP, and let's have fun. And as a treat, imply that we'll have a further election after that. And it's Pete Buttigieg is the candidate or whatever. And we're 6 months out from that election. And Pete Buttigieg is asked by Fox News, will you respect the results of the election? And he's like, well, we'll see. It depends. And maybe there'll be violence. It depends. Pete Buttigieg think maybe there'll be violence, but we'll find out together. How do you think the right-wing media and the Republicans would respond to that? Because that's what Trump just said. He said, if we don't win, it depends on political violence. We might have more rioting, more cops being beaten to death, maybe protesters being like Tom Cotton wants, being thrown off the Golden Gate Bridge to drown in the bay. Maybe we'll have some of that. It depends. We'll see. Can you imagine if the Democrats talked like that? And to imply that having an issue with that means that you're MSNBC, dear God, I hope that MSNBC is not like the only like bastion of democracy or whatever, because then we're screwed.
Isn't it amazing that like we're focused on the language of students on campus when they're trying to protest genocide, and the right is just openly like, yeah, we're gonna do political violence and assassinations and we should kill these protesters, and the media is like, well, the protesters are saying from the river to the sea. Like, it's so scary to me. I'm very, very upset that Biden, and it seems like a lot of Democrats, are not more focused on this kind of language and what is going to be done should another 2021 or 2020 election, 2021 January 6th happen, then it is a concern about effing protesters.
Tom Cotton said, from the bridge to the sea.
Right.
He said, throw people off the bridge if they're blocking your way. Murder, or at least attempted murder, these protesters. He said that on an interview, not leaked footage, Lauren Windsor released it or whatever. He said it in a televised interview. And I don't know if anyone other than I has mentioned that since then. But I don't know, there was a student at USC that said something I don't like. I think that discredits the entire movement. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?